Hi, my name is Vinette Love. This recording is intended for the Widener University MSW program, specifically for the SW 501 Human Behavior and Social Environment Adult Interview segment. In the interest of confidentiality, I will refer to my participant as Dr. C. Good afternoon, Dr. C.
Good afternoon, Vinette.
Dr. C, before I go any further, would you mind telling me your age?
Not at all. I'm 87 and 9. I'll just say .9.
Thank you. So, Dr. C, you mind telling me your nationality?
American, African American.
Were you born in the United States?
Yes, I was.
Great.
Right here in the state of Pennsylvania.
So, would you mind sharing some information on your family background and the area which you grew up in?
Not at all. I was born here in the city of Philadelphia. I am the youngest of 3 children. I was raised in a family, mother and father present at all times, and the 3 of us children.
Can you discuss some important experiences that may have coined your personal and professional development?
Well, being the youngest of 3, of course, I was spoiled, and whatever I wanted, I received. Although all 3 of us were treated, as the expression goes, as sliced bread. We were all favored children. And because of that, we did well in school. We were what is called a churched family. And so we benefited from regular church attendance and participation in Baptist and Methodist religions. That's all for now. I'll wait for other questions.
You mentioned that you grew up with your parents. Can you tell me something about your parents, like their occupation?
Oh, yes. My parents were known as people in service. My father was a butler chauffeur in his job. My mother was a housemaid. She did not stay away from us at night as he did. He was in our home only 3 nights a week. The other nights he slept where he worked. She went to work each and every day, came home each and every night.
This is wonderful. So even though your father was not there every night, you still were a significantly well-disciplined family then, because you just said you were all well-schooled.
Yes, we felt that we were. Dad played a big influence in our lives. Even though he was not there every night, we anticipated his being there in that the day of what is called the people who worked in service. You received 1 day off a week. It was a common day that this day was Thursday, and all their friends also worked in service, as it was called, and so we were raised enjoying the things that the people that he worked for received. He wanted us to receive the same thing. The stemware for dinner, the china, the 7-piece settings of silverware, which we learned to use as very young children, which fork, which spoon, lace tablecloths, all that type of thing. He had to provide that where he worked, and so he decided he would have it where he lived.
That is interesting. Now, were there any hurdles that you might have noticed as a child that helped to formulate your own adult choices?
The only thing I can think of is that our churches were completely African American. They were not integrated. The only place that I can particularly think of any hurdles would be in my high school. I attended a high school which was approximately 7 or 8% African American. The rest of the school was all Caucasian. And so I was blessed, I felt, to have been given superior intelligence, so that when special classes were made, I was often the only African American in the class. And of course, it was always, "Oh, how did you get here, Alma?" And it didn't take Alma long to show them why I was there and how much superior I was to them.
That is interesting. Now, did you experience anything? I can understand the teachers asking, how did you get there, but how did you make out with the peers?
No, these were the peers. Our teachers were, I would say, only one teacher out of the 3 years that I was there that I would even think of having any prejudice against me as an African American student. We had teachers who were from foreign countries. In fact, my favorite teacher had been born in Brussels. The French teacher, my mathematics teacher, had been born in Germany. We had teachers from all over the world. The English teacher was a Quaker, as I remember, a very fair-minded woman, so that we did not experience. I experienced only one instance where I can think of where it was from a teacher. Most, it was from more, not most, and more, was from the students who, as they looked around, and probably from the lower schools where they had attended, there were no African American students in the room. And even in my room, even though when they had the special classes for ability students, I and another girl, dear Norma, we were generally the only 2 African American students in the room.
So, Dr. C, can you list some personal environment challenges with race, gender? Well, you just highlighted the one incident in your school, but in your community, would you say that your community was majority of your same race, or were you in a mixed community?
Oh, no. There was no integration of housing when I was growing up. The neighborhoods were, Philadelphia is known for its little neighborhoods. We had Little Italy, of course you know that, and we had a few Italians where I grew up, but primarily the neighborhoods are designated in Philadelphia according to the ethnicity. We have the Jewish neighborhoods, we have the Italian neighborhoods, we have the African American neighborhoods, and this is the way it went.
So there really weren't no hurdles, even though there was the segregation. It never really impacted you negatively, not in your hometown.
Not as a neighborhood kind of thing, as I recall, because the only neighborhood I can speak of course, is where I lived. And that was the one where it was a few Italians. I never lived in a mixed Jewish neighborhood. I never lived in a mixed WASP neighborhood. My neighborhoods were all, in early living, had Italian Americans. Later, they were 100% African American.
So, having that experience, and now over 80 years later, how do you compare where you were to where you are now? And let's say during your teenage years in college, was there anything that you knew that pointed you into the direction you really wanted to go?
as a young person, I will say I didn't know where I really wanted to go. One goes where one's friends are or have been. And there was a clique of young girls in Philadelphia, African Americans. We all went to the same high school, girls' high school and academic high school. We headed for the same colleges, Temple University, Westchester Teachers College, Cheney Teachers College. And so we went to the same sororities even. And so we continued this togetherness all through our lives. That's just the way it was back then. Not as you find things now, where many neighborhoods now are much more integrated than when we grew up. Consider you're talking almost 70 years ago. Things were quite different.
Things were different indeed. Now, during your teenage years and your young adult while in college, do you think that you were favored because of your intelligence? Or do you think you were seen as different because of the neighborhood you came from? Or did none of those have any impact on your college years?
Well, particularly at college, the difference was because of the race, African American. The college that I attended was one of the 14 state colleges, Westchester. It was a state teachers college then. It is now known as a university. All of them are now universities and offer a broad scope of courses. At that time, as I said, I'm talking I can't even remember myself.
Back in the day.
Back in the day, we'll call it. There was only one course, teaching. That they were known as the teachers' colleges of the state of Pennsylvania. And there were 14 of them, all just teaching education. Now, the reason I attended the Westchester is because it had the secondary program. Many of my friends went to Cheney, but it did not have a secondary program. It had only the elementary school program. And so this is the reason that I ended up at Westchester. Unfortunately, Westchester was an extremely prejudiced college. It was located in an extremely prejudiced area of the state of Pennsylvania. It is very close to the Mason-Dixon line, if you check your geography around here. And we know from history what the Mason-Dixon line meant, where we all, as black people, should know what it meant. And yes, there were many bad experiences that one could say bad experiences at the college level. But you see what happened? We had our own group of folks. We all stayed together. We had the men and the women, and many within the group married each other in later life. That we did not get upset. We knew that things were, for instance, at Westchester, those students who took physical education were at a minus because they were not allowed to go in the swimming pool. And so they had to go somewhere else to get their credits for swimming. There were many instances. We could not live in the dormitories there until just 2 years before I started attending there. I graduated in 1951 from Westchester. Prior to that, say 1948, 49, we were not allowed to live in the dormitories. There, we lived in the town. We attended the college as commuters and all that kind of thing. Extremely prejudiced area. When we went to the neighborhood local movies, we had to go upstairs to the upper part of the movie house to see the movie. You couldn't sit on the first floor. So Westchester